a grudge, and this guy can't fight the feeling. Let's go around the horn. Whoa. Oh, don't worry about the middle finger. Are we still worried about the middle finger?
It's Around the Horn,
one of 5
the show
fingers,
of
people. Who
competitive
cares?
betting. Here's Tony Reale.
The university accepts legal and moral responsibility for the mistakes that our training staff made on that fateful workout day. We will do everything possible that the situation that Jordan McNair found himself in will never happen again.
Today's press conference at Maryland, University President Wallace Lowe and Athletic Director Damon Evans is unlike any press conference we've seen. I think we could all agree. We watched it on set here. It's University acknowledging mistakes, misdiagnosis, and culpability in the death of Jordan McNair, accepting legal and moral responsibility, and announcing an independent investigation into that death. Allegations of bullying in the football program under head coach DJ Durkin, who's under administrative leave currently as well. Kevin Blackistone, you are a professor at this university, and you've covered sports, of course, for the majority of your career. What's your reaction to what the university said today?
Well, my first reaction is that I'm glad that they addressed the human loss in this tragedy first and foremost, because I think that obviously is what is most important. I think a lot of people will tune in or will look in the news later on today to find out whether or not they have fired DJ Durkin as head coach in this matter. And I would fully expect that that is something that will happen sooner rather than later. I know that the athletic director did not respond to a question about whether or not DJ Durkin would be around at the start of the season, but I'd really be surprised if he was after the actions that he took today, firing the strength coach, Rick Court. I think Maryland admitted a lot of things in this press conference that they did not necessarily have to admit. They took a lot of responsibility in this entire horrible affair. And I think that's what you have to do if you're an institution and you see the facts laid out in front of you.
Tim Calishaw.
I like the president a lot. That was a speech from the heart. It wasn't from a bunch of prepared notes. At one point he said, I know we'll do the right thing, and then he stopped himself and said, not that I know. We're committed to trying to do the right thing. He's just trying to be as open and honest as he can about this situation, dealing with the death of the player. And as far as it goes with the football coach, you know, we've been through these different situations, but a coach where you think he's going to get fired, it takes time, it takes an investigation. There are contractual reasons, perhaps, that you can't do something right away. There's a lot of money involved. And I think they want to look at the entire situation with these people they've hired, see exactly what although they've already admitted serious mistakes have been made, but you look at all that and then you can deal with the coach when that time comes.
Woody Page?
I was impressed with the handling of the entire day, and it wasn't mentioned, but going to see Jordan McNair's parents before they came out with the press conference, I thought was the logical and reasonable thing to do, and to actually sit down with them and talk about what they were going to say to the public and to the press this afternoon. And number two, I think that as we examine this investigation, that the president and the athletic director have called on a blue ribbon panel that has been involved in situations similar to this, somewhat similar in the past, including the Penn State scandal. And I think that's going to make a difference. So you should hold off on any other firings. But most of the most serious allegations were directed toward Rick Court, the assistant athletic director, and he has been dismissed or parted ways is what it was said. And I think that's an important first step in regard to how they deal with the trainers and the coaching staff.
And Ramona Shelburne.
Well, there's two things that they're investigating, right? One is the incident that led to Jordan McNair's death, and the other is the allegations against the football program, which of allegations of bullying, of the culture that was created there that may have also contributed to the death. So we sort of got some answers on the first one, which is Rick Court's out, that they admitted very publicly that they made mistakes in handling the specific situation. They should have got an ice bath on him. They waited too long to call paramedics. They didn't follow their own best practices. So we have somewhat of an answer there. What we really need to do is get an answer on the culture that was created there, because that is what the ESPN investigation really unearthed, and that's actually taken a couple of months. I mean, what part I heard Damon Evans, the athletic director, saying is, since I've been on the job, this has been my highest priority. Well, it didn't become public. They weren't having this press conference until that ESPN story came out that was very well researched and reported. And so that's where we need the accountability now. And I think it's good that they're giving this due process, and we have some time now to find out exactly what contributed to it.
It's a very intriguing point you raised there, Ramona Shelburne. I mean, I think you were all impressed with the vulnerability and the accountability from the university president and the athletic director, and also talking about the victim first and the tragedy. True. But to Ramona's point, Kevin, and once again, you're a professor of journalism at this university in Maryland, that it took 2 months to finally get to this point, this accountability, this vulnerability. How do you feel about that as a professor at the school, and how does the school feel about that in general? Well,
I'll just say this as someone who grew up here, forget the journalism professor part, but just someone who grew up in this area as a fan of Maryland sports, I'm uncomfortable with that, because it does seem like they reacted to a news report rather than reacted to the event.
One last thing I'll say here, because it can be both, right? You can be impressed in a certain way with how a school is handling this today, because like it or not, we're all comparing it to what we've seen from other schools in the past. I brought this up on yesterday's show. And this is not a comparison. Two different things, USA Gymnastics or Penn State, if you want to. One of the things we're seeing here, we're talking about a culture that includes bullying, but we're also talking about a culture where it's always the program over the person. And truth be told, there are good things that can come from putting your program above the person in some ways. Of course, you can get more out of people as a group than you can out of one. But the reality is, when you're mortgaging a person, and quite literally a person's life here, or in USA Gymnastics, the victims' lives going forward, you're putting the program above that. That is the ultimate sin in all of this. So whether it did take the school 2 months to acknowledge this, seeing them get to a podium and acknowledge it the way they did, there was some value in that. Thanks for your thoughts. We're going to move on here, talk some sports.
Well said, Tony.
Washington Nationals baseball. Let's roll tape here.
3-1 pitch to a guy with power.
Yep.
There were no words on the call, because there are no words for what the Nationals are doing now. Actually, there's some words.
You know, I don't know what else to do.
They don't know what else to do. Those are the words. Kevin, this is your account. After they didn't trade Harper at the deadline, you remember they won that game with the 25 runs. Everyone wanted to say momentum would carry them forward. Now they've lost back-to-back games and walk-offs the way you just possibly can't. Will this sink them? What is the deal with your Washington Nationals?
Well, they were sunk some time ago, and one of the problems that you saw crop up here is with relief pitching. They don't have Doolittle because he's on the injured list. They don't have Herrera because he got hurt. That didn't work out. And a lot of their other relievers complained several weeks ago in the Washington Post to Chelsea Janes that they felt they had been misused and abused by Dave Martinez as a manager, and that they were not healthy going forward. So a lot of this comes back on the use of the relief pitchers for this team. You think this comes back to manager David Martinez? I don't. There's no question. I mean, not much has changed between this roster and the roster that's been here the last couple years. The biggest change has been with the manager. Dusty Baker is chilling out in San Francisco after leading this team to 2 seasons of 90-plus wins, and you got a rookie manager in with this roster. TC, how do you read it from afar?
Yeah, I mean, every team can be undone by a bullpen, whatever the bullpen woes are, and some of those injuries KB mentioned, you know, they're real. You got to find a way around those, but you can't have a manager standing there after the game saying, I don't know what else to do. That's the wrong message to be sending to anybody when you're still not completely out of it.
Thank you. Woody Page.
I want to be referred to as WP today, if that's okay. I think that if you look at the situation, they have lost 21 one-run games, and you have to put it on the manager. I have never heard in the more than 50 years of covering sports a manager or a coach say, I don't know what to do. You know, that's a fireable offense. The general manager come out and say, if you don't know what to do, let me get someone in that job that does know what to do.
It's a fireable offense, Woody Page said.
I think so. I mean, you've just reached down and said, I'm at a loss for words and a loss for a game.
Ramona, I want to get your take on the Nats, but in general, is manager or coach saying, I don't know what to do? Is that a fireable offense? Is what he's suggesting?
Well, we didn't do him any favors with the way we clipped that part. He was talking about the reliever that they put. They have like one left-handed reliever right now. And so whenever they have to bring in a left-handed reliever, that's the guy they go to. And he's like, I don't know what to do. That's all we got. Okay, now I'm laughing at Kalishaw down there. They're still not completely out of it. Spoken like a true baseball reporter in Texas, right? To me, like, they're out of it. Why are we still talking about the Nationals? They're done. They haven't shown any sign that they're.
We're talking about them because the
team.
gasoline they're throwing and lighting themselves on fire. But it's just incredible at the end of these games.
Epic meltdown day after day. It's great.
Yeah. Well, this is what we go. These gnats aren't going crazy. These gnats are natting. This is what we come to expect from Washington. We'll move on. Headline 3: Clippers parting ways with Bruce Bowen, who was announcer for the team 2 months ago on Sirius Radio. He questioned Kawhi Leonard's excuse-making, as he called it. Ramona. A lot of people connecting dots here. This is about the Clippers maybe going after Kawhi Leonard next year. What's your view of this entire scenario?
Look, if you're the Clippers, you got to do what you got to do. Like, they don't really get free agents very often. And I think with Bruce Bowen, like, I enjoyed working with Bruce when he was at ESPN. He's a great commentator, but that's Mr. Spur there. I mean, his jersey's retired in the rafters in San Antonio. I thought it was a strange hire to begin with last year. So then you go and say stuff about Kawhi when you know they're recruiting him. Like, I mean, I think he can't even be surprised about this.
Woody Page?
Well, we all know, people watching this show and on this show know that that most announcers of teams are homers, and that's what they're paid to do, and I accept that. Mm-hmm. And they also, if they go outside,
interesting. I don't know this word.
If they go outside the lines, as he did in this situation, and said something that could affect their team moving forward, yes, he has a right to be fired. I did a talk radio show with a guy, and he said, whatever you do, don't ask me about the team, because he was the play-by-play guy, and that's all I ask him about every day, and he wouldn't respond. So I know.
Yes. Still, I don't know this homer word you speak of. I've never come across one in my time here. Tim Kalish, how about you?
My initial thought is it's pretty strange when you work for the Clippers, you say something about a Toronto Raptor who the Clippers can't even talk to for a year, and somehow you get fired for that. But realistically, the Clippers have one way to get out of jail and get back to being pretty good, and that's to get the superstar who's told everybody he wants to play in Los Angeles and he may not want to play with LeBron James. So they don't need any negativity around that thought.
KB.
Yeah, this is a symbiotic relationship between sports and sports media, particularly when you're talking about the house organ for the team. They don't want anybody there who is going to cast a dark cloud upon their team, as Woody pointed out, and that's exactly what happened here.
Yeah, Woody, as Woody pointed out, Woody gets the point then.
Yes.
Hey, Ramona, you've dealt with this covering teams in LA, but especially with the Lakers, right? I mean, they're on complete radio silence now with the number of tampering charges.
Oh, yeah.
They've been prone to get over the years. All right, take a break
I hosted
right
John
here.
Ireland. He couldn't even talk.
We don't want any tampering charges. We're taking a break. Fire sale on the other side. What are these homers you speak of, Woody Page?
Well, you were one when you were with Fordham.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
More
Good to
time for
you.
you to talk to Woody. What are you complaining about?
Around the Horn is brought to you by each.
By yourself.
It's Fire Sell, and we're going to needle drop into camp and look at some quarterbacks. Tom Brady, so upset with the way practice was going and the way his receivers were dropping balls. He punted a ball this week. He also had comments this week that all's good with him and Bill Belichick, post Alex Guerrero and yada, 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 yada. He said on EEI he's lucky and privileged to be working with Belichick. Ramona, you buy or sell that?
No, not at all. Like, I just think they got together and said, we need to squash the story. I'm tired of answering questions. You're tired of answering questions. Let's just say that we love each other and get those reporters to stop asking us about it.
Okay, so that's what you think. Woody Page, you?
Ramona, that never happened. You know better than that. You're talking about two strong personalities. They have. Without each other, they wouldn't have been as accomplished as they would over their career. But there is a little matter of a facility right across from the practice and workout field that causes a rift between them ongoing.
You're talking about Alex Guerrero. So that's kind of where this friction at least started in the last 6 months. Tim Kalishaw, you believe all's good?
I believe Tom Brady is capable of having the mindset that all is good from September to January. Mm-hmm. And that's all that really matters, because there's a long history of Hall of Fame quarterbacks and coaches who didn't have that great a relationship, but they could work together and they could win.
That's a good point, Tim. And Kevin Blackistone, how about you?
Yeah, I'm buying that they're yin and yang, that they will be able to get through whatever troubles them during the offseason, that they realize that they could not be as successful without the other, and that there's no place that either would rather be than with the other as they close down maybe the end of their careers.
Tim, you talked about the relationship between coach and QB. Can you think of a couple examples? You specifically saw Jimmy Johnson and Aikman. Were they simpatico?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't start off the best. Even Staubach wanted to call his plays, when Landry was here. And I think Woody knows all about John Elway and Dan Reeves for years.
Okay, we'll move on. Brady punted a ball. Aaron Rodgers tossed the ball at a tackling dummy with his frustration. Here's what he said about venting.
I hope we're not that soft. I hope we can, hear comments or read comments and not get offended by things. It's a professional environment. It's not a personal environment.
Woody, buy or sell? I hope we're not that soft from Rodgers.
Well, I'm buying what he said initially about the PP performance that they had, but he was playing with a scout team. I sell the fact that he felt like he needed to come back and explain himself. Everybody allows a coach of his caliber to say exactly what he wants to about practice, and he doesn't need to explain anything.
They allow a quarterback of his caliber as well. How about you, Kalishaw?
I'm buying that these are all weekly messages he's delivering as much to management, which didn't really consult him on offseason moves, as it is to the young receivers on the team.
You think that's passive-aggressive, Tim? Would you go so far to call it that?
That's a good
Or just aggressive-aggressive. All right, Kevin Blankistone, how about you?
I have absolutely no problem with what Aaron Rodgers said. He didn't name any names. He's just talking about his core of receivers and wants a better response from them on the practice field. This is a guy who's trying to get back to the Super Bowl and hopefully win it, and he wants the best out of everybody.
Ramona.
I'm selling anyone who complained about his initial comments, right? Like, these are rookie receivers that are a little soft and can't take that. I mean, to me, this is Aaron Rodgers. He can say whatever he wants. He's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And if he feels like these young kids need to step up and practice a little harder, he can say whatever he wants. He doesn't need to explain himself.
Okay. Tom Brady punted a ball, Aaron Rodgers tossed the ball to tackling dummy, and Cam Newton posts videos. Let's take a look.
I need things around me just like this wall. You probably ask yourself, like, why this wall is just so basic? But it never changed on me. It's the same wall every single day.
Look at that smile. Tim, how much of that do you think has to do with walls? How much has to do with Kelvin Benjamin?
I'm not buying the wall. I'm selling the wall, but I'm buying his performance before the game when he confronted in a non-threatening way Kelvin Benjamin, and Kelvin Benjamin wouldn't address the remarks he made. I thought Cam handled that well.
How about you, KB?
I wish he'd just explained that thing wrapped around his throat. But you know what? I'm with Tim on this. I mean, you know what? Kelvin Benjamin brought something up. He addressed Kelvin Benjamin. Kelvin Benjamin walked away. You know what? If you're going to be man enough to say something behind somebody's back, then be man enough to talk to him in his face. I like what Cam did.
Yeah, I really like that, where he has his hands behind his back and he confronts him like, if you have something to say it to my face. But the whole passive-aggressive talking to the wall thing, not that funny, Like, maybe it's funny to him, maybe it's funny on social media, but it didn't work for me. Just leave it as it is.
Woody Page?
I'm selling it. Why go beneath yourself and go and approach Benjamin and even talk about that? Be stronger than that. In regard to the wall, what is he doing? Channeling Pink Floyd here? Another brick against the wall? What is that all about? I couldn't understand them in their music. I couldn't understand him and what he said about the wall.
Maybe, or maybe you just needed to be right state of mind, Woody Page, to understand it. Whatever Cam says, if he says it with that smile, you got me. I mean, does he have more teeth than the average person? I mean, that's an incredible smile. Ramona Shelburne and Woody Page, let's see that smile. Smile for the picture. Come on, Momo.
Oh.
Kalishaw, Blackstone, showdown next. Let's go.
You think 7-Up's just a soda? Well, can just a soda make guac, carnitas, and margaritas for Taco Tuesday? Yes, it can. Trick question. Hey guys, Kevin, hi. Do more with 7-Up.
Excalibur. I thought that was a legend.
Sir Doug.
Bud Light Lime.
Bud Light Orange.
Dilly Dilly.
Oh.